In this video, I'll be showing you a ton of tips for PBL for Square-1. So this is going to be quite a long video, and also these tips are pretty advanced. So if you don't know PBL too well, or you haven't watched my series on PBL, I think this video won't be too helpful. But this video is meant to be kind of an add-on to my PBL series, adding some more tips for PBL beyond the tips already given there. You'll need to watch the entire series to understand this video, but there are a ton of algs in that series that are used in this video as well, which is why I think that's kind of like a prerequisite for this video. But anyway, here are the tips for PBL. First off, you want to be able to predict some PBL during EO. During EO, it's quite hard to predict all of PBL, but predicting some of it is quite important. For example, for this 1-1 case, it's quite important to know that this whole big block is preserved if you use the correct alg for it. So something like that. You can also imagine these two edges swapping and all the corners being preserved as well. Here's another EO alg. You can imagine this block being preserved, this block being preserved, and the corners as well. So yeah, if you're using the correct EO algs that preserve a lot of blocks and a lot of the corners, it's usually a good idea to predict a bit of PBL during EO. Usually predicting one layer is good enough because a lot of times you can kind of guess what the PBL is going to be kind of like. Or you can get more information on both layers, that way you can recognize it quicker. Also, another strategy is to maybe try to see if there's parity on the top of all layers or not. That way you know whether you have a no parity kind of PBL or a double parity kind of PBL. Next off, between your two algs for PBL, you want to reduce your pause there. Usually a lot of this comes from experience or trial and error, but there are some tricks you can do here and there. For example, for 2CP PBL, what you want to do is after you do the first setup alg, just bring the headlights to the front, like that, to do the second alg. So here the headlights are here and here. Now I know after the first JJ, do U prime D prime, and then you see how that clearly just sets up easily this next JJ. So no pause in between those two algs. The same can be done with other PBLs. Just understand how algs like JJ work and how they affect the corners. And from there you can kind of use the CP to predict how the next alg would go. Just having a huge pause in between your two algs for PBL is just quite bad, so you want to reduce that as much as possible. Next off, it's quite important to know CP algs with the bar flip, so you don't have to do the 6 like that, which is quite annoying. So here they are. So first off, NN with bar flip. For NN, the alg goes like this. For JJ, what I like to do is do JJ from the back, and then from there cancel into an NN. So for example, for this case, I'll do something like this, JJ, and then cancel into an NN. For this case, I like to do JJ from the back like this, with this JJ, and then cancel into an NN. Another really nice alg is something like this. There's no double moves for this one. However, for this alg, you can tell that the angle is quite weird, so you have to keep that in mind for this alg. For JN, it's also quite simple with a bar flip. Same direction twice, opposite direction, then same direction twice again, something like that. It's also nice to avoid those U2s for the bar flips for your regular PBLs as well. There's a few ways to do this. First off, you can do a different solution than your normal one that requires one extra slice, which would fix the bar flip. For example here, if I do the regular 2CP PBL, it's quite bad because that's 8 slices and the bars flip. So we have to do like a U2 or D2 to get that slice up to get 9 slices, which is not that great. One option is to solve this PBL in a different way. For example, force a double U Perm. That way you don't have to do a bar flip at the end. Another option is to use what we learned before. So first off, do JJ like that. And then instead of doing JJ with a bar flip, just do the JJ we learned before. Which is great since there's no bar flip. During PBL, you want to also avoid U2s and D2s. For example, for this 2CP PBL, TY, I could do JJ like this. And if I only do JJ from the front, I have to do a U prime and then D2, and then do JJ again, which is not good. Alright, so here is the same case, same beginning, JJ. Don't do a D2, instead, just learn the JJs from different angles. For example, the back angle, do JJ from that angle, and just avoid that D2. Another example here, I have Adj. Usually what I do is D2, U2 to solve this one, and do JJ into PS. But from this angle, you can do JJ from the back, like that. And from here, do PS, which is a bit better. Here's a nice way to solve BC or any combination of B's or C's. First off, just do an Opp to turn the B into a J, and do the Opp on the side here in a way to make the C into an R. something like this. And then from here, just do JR. And of course, this depends which angle you have. So this works for every combo of B and C. One thing I want to make sure though is that you don't pause between the algs, so try to predict where the J and the R is going to go. Secondly, if the layers are misaligned like this, try to cancel the algs. That way it makes the algs from 8 slices into 6 slices, which is super good. Now for the inverse, we got D and C. So any combination of D's and C's, you can solve it like this. Do a J perm on top with the D, and on the C, do an R perm here. For the R perm, just pretend that this pseudo block in front is actually a block for the R perm, so that's quite simple to visualize. So not this block, but this pseudo block. And then for here, just do JR. And then you get Opp. So as usual, you want to make sure that you're not pausing in between those algs. And if the bars are misaligned, you want to make sure that you cancel into the Opp. So there's a lot of PBLs where we can do PJ into a CP, which is more efficient than any other solutions for PBL. So first I'll show how to do each case. First off, when you have an S perm, something like this, do PJ from the front, you get a nice J perm here. If you get an Adj swap, just do PJ from the front, either this angle or this angle, doesn't matter. And you get JJ as expected. For D perm, it's also quite simple. Just hold the blocks in the back, PJ in the front gives you J perms. Finally, we got P perms. Do JJ in the front and preserve the blocks in the back. Also gives you a J perm. So if you get the PBL with any combo of those cases, make sure to do PJ into a CP. For example here, this is P Adj, not a great case because you have to do the single J perm and an Adj. So that's no good. So instead do this, PJ into JJ. So that saves 2 slices and it's quite easy to do. And it's quite easy to recognize the cases. It's just S, P, Adj, and D. So just know those cases and you can force them into J perms like that. Here's another application of putting PJ into a CP. This one is KK. This is usually best when the bar is flipped and both layers are aligned the same way. Otherwise, you would do some other alg for it. But for this case, you can do something like this. PJ on the back with that alg, and you get NN. So if you have KK with the bar flipped and both layers the same alignments, make sure you do PJ into NN. In a similar fashion, you can solve AA like this. So if you have bad AA with the bar flipped, you can solve it in 7 slices with PJ in the back, and then PN. For this case, PN and S, usually the normal solution is to go to PK, which I don't really like too much. So here's an alternative solution. What we do here is do Adj into YY. So of course forcing this into Y is quite easy, just do an Adj swap there, or on the bottom the other way. For the S, it's a bit less obvious, so you need to know how to align the blocks. But basically how it works is that if the blocks are aligned, hold it on the left or the front, if here. If they're misaligned, hold it in the front on the bottom and the right on the top, something like that. So here it is, Adj to YY. This one has this alignment, so hold it in the front, Adj into YY. This one is misaligned, so hold it on the right, Adj into YY. And this one is aligned, so again hold the PN the same way, Adj into this time YY like that. So yeah, that's a nice way to solve that PBL. Another PBL I don't like the standard solution for is CO. This one is quite ugly. I think usually you do JR into PS, something like that, which is quite annoying. But here's a solution that's quite easy to recognize and do. So first off, on the C, find the pseudo G block, which is right here. It's just the opposite block that's not connected to the headlights. Find that, put it on the left. Next, just do FV from there. So F perm on top and then V perm on bottom, something like that. Doesn't matter what angle. And no matter what, after that you always get PS from some angle, and usually it's a decent angle. So yeah, that works for every single C and O perm. So all you have to do is line the C perm, but the O perm is pretty much the same, so it's quite easy to recognize. It's a bit harder not to pause between the two algs, but in general, this is a pretty nice solution. Next, there's also a lot of ways you can force a VF and do some pretty nice solutions. So if you get RV, the standard solution is just to do JN into Double U Perm, which is 11 slices, which is not good. So if you have this case, it's quite simple. Just do JJ from this angle, and that forces VF, which is super good. So for this one, just do VF and then do a lot of random CPs after it and see what works. And you get a lot of nice combinations that fix some pretty bad PBLs. The next tip is that during OLL, between the two algs, you always want to cancel into M2s if you can. So this tip is quite handy when you're good at it, but it takes quite a bit of practice. So I'll show some cases where you can use it for. So here is N and then E. So what we can do here is NN from any angle. Don't finish the NN, but cancel into an M2, kind of like that. And from here, just cancel into the Z perm on the bottom. So pretty much NN cancel into Z perm on the bottom. Same tip goes here. You have PN and then X here. So again, this is pretty simple. Just do, you can do two options here. You could do O up into NN, but I think I prefer this one, which is PN, cancel into the M2. And from here, just do the Z perm on bottom again, like before. But yeah, make sure you don't do an H perm, that's quite bad. Here's another case where you could do the cancellations. So this one I could do Op O, cancel into the J perm. So this one you want to know the J perms from different angles. For this one is the J perm from the back angle. So something like this. I could do first O Op. Now if it did the M2 like that, that's not good because the J perm alignment is incorrect. Let's do the final J perm for this case, like that. And now we can cancel into this J. So something like this. Here is DO. Again, it's same concept. You do J into the Op O. For this one, you need to know this J perm with the highlights on the right. It goes like this. And then you cancel into this M2. And you finish off the Op O to solve the PBL. So there I just showed how to do BO and DO when the bar is not flipped. You know when the bar is flipped though, when it's good BO or good DO, you would just do something like JJ into BB, I think, or you do DD into JJ. Now, even if you have bad DO or bad BO, you should do the same thing and just do the bad DD or the bad BB. This just makes the PBLs for these two cases, BO and DO, just very consistent between odd cases when the bar is flipped or not. So again, if the bar is not flipped, do the cancellation into the Op O. But now if the bar is flipped, something like this, always go into B or do D into J. Here you can't really do a D perm. So the first J, what you would do is JJ Op Op. Something like that. Then you get JJ at the end. So it's 11 slices, but pretty much this is still the best 2-alg solution, I'm pretty sure. Here's some nice PBLs where we can cancel into Op or M2s. Starting with the M2s, you can do OP pretty simply by doing M2 spams, kind of. And then cancel into the J perm on top or bottom, of course. But for this, you want to be careful with the last M2, because that's the one that determines which alignment the J perm has. So if it's aligned, you want to start it with like a misaligned M2 like that. That way you can actually cancel into the M2. If you do the other M2, you'll notice that you can't cancel into it. So just be careful with that, and then you can just cancel into the J perm like that. If you don't know that J perm algorithm, these are the ones I use for bars on left. That's for the top, and then for the bottom. So those are the algs I do use for those J perms. You can also solve QP in the same way by doing Op O cancel into JN. This one you have to be even more careful because if you do Op O in the incorrect direction, you get a weird case that you can't cancel with no matter what you do. So I want to make sure you're going in the correct direction. For example, if the block's here in the back for the P perm, you want to do counterclockwise moves for the Op O, something like this. Also for the last move, you want to be careful that you do the M2 in a way that makes it possible to cancel to the JN, like that. Then for some Op cancellations, here's one of them, PNP. For this one, I just do a JN into Op and then preserve the blocks I give an Op, like that. That way you can cancel through the Op. So, it looks like this. And then cancel. This can also work with Op PN. I do it a bit differently though. I do the Op first because I feel like it's more comfortable for me. So Op first. And then you get this endpoint on the bottom, so you can just cancel into that if you want, like that. It's also useful to do Op from different angles. You can do it like this, obviously. That's the normal one. You can also do it like this. So misaligned bottom. You can also do it from this angle. This also works sometimes in algs, but it's a bit less useful. Something like that. Or something like this. This one's a bit more awkward, different trick. You can also do it with cases like this, which is like Op B or like Op D. For these, just know how to do Op from different alignments, first off, and then second off, you should also know how to do J perms from different angles. For this one, I'll do Op like this, and then just cancel to this J perm. So it looks like this. So that's J Perm with the headlights in the back. And then this one you should know, the one with J Perms with the headlights on the right, because you want to do the J Perm first, then the Opp. So with the headlights on the right, you do something like this. Into Opp, but then just cancel it so you get the 7 slicer. For PBL, you always want to find opportunities to cancel the 2 algs together. For example, for this case, DS, you could solve it like this maybe, and do like Adj maybe, which gives you JN. But if you do it from the back here, it's quite obvious that you can cancel into this JN. So you want to look for opportunities like this, where you can just do stuff that cancels into another alg, like that. Usually something like this, the Opp is not the greatest PBL for here, because it takes, I think, 10 slices for my method, but with this alg it's a bit better. So here's a pretty simple solution on this case. So just do JN here, and then do PN. So now the case is 8 slices, not 10. Here's a nice 6 slicer to solve P Opp. This is usually not the greatest case, but what we can do similarly to before was JN into PN, but this time we can cancel it. So you can do something like this, JN like that. On the last move, just do PN, cancellation, like that. And then if it's on bottom, same exact thing. So JN, and then finish it off with PN. For this alg, just make sure you're holding the Opp the correct way. I do it left to right and then just misalign the block on top to force Opp, but I'm pretty sure there's another way to do it as well. I think if you hold the Opp front to back, it can also work with maybe PN into JN, but this is the version I like better. So here's a pretty nice PBL, FF. Usually what you would do is PJ into Opp. This is actually optimal if the bar is flipped, but if the bar is not flipped, what I like to do is something like this, PJ, like that. And right before the last slice, do an M2 on the side, and then solve it. So that's quite simple. Pretty much it's a cancellation of this Opp, the one that's slice U prime D, M2 U D prime slice, that Opp, and then you cancel it with the PJ, so it goes like this. So that's FF. Knowing FF makes this case super easy, which is CC. So here's my rule for CC, which is nice. So whenever you have the bar flipped, always do PJ first, and then finish off the solve with the U perms. Now even if you get the bad double U perm, it's still fine. Even though it's 11 slices, I think it's close to optimal. So that's actually just fine. So just do the alg for that. Now whenever you get CC and the bar is not flipped, always do FF. So that's just the alg I just showed. Like that. And then you'll always be left with an Adj. And sometimes you can actually cancel it to make it 8 slices, which is super cool. So that's my rule for CC. If the bar is flipped, PJ, and then finish it off. If the bar is not flipped, just do FF and then finish it off. Sometimes cancel. So this doesn't matter which C's you get, if it's good C's or bad C's, it doesn't matter. Every time you're doing a straightforward solution, which is pretty nice. Also, PP can be solved in a similar way. So what you do for this one is you do JJ. Before the last move, do an M2 on the side, and it's going to give you PP, like that. Now it works the same as before, you're doing a JJ, and then cancel into this Opp thing. So you do JJ, and then do the M2 in the middle, and then solve it. So this only works for good PP, which means the blocks are like kind of like that. And the way you hold it is that you always want to make sure that the JJ goes like that, in a way that it breaks up these opposites, like that, and not like this. That way you can force Opp on the side and cancel into it, instead of giving you Adj, which you can't cancel anything into. Alright, so here's some better ways to solve the cases where you would usually get a bad double U perm. So the first set is when you know you get double bad U perm, but you have the blocks on opposite sides of the cube, like that. So one's on the right, one's on the left. This could happen with an R perm as well, with one block on one side and one block on the other. JJ will give you bad U perms, so what you do instead is you do DD. So from here, just do DD. Then you always get Adj. So same slice count as doing U perm first, but it gives you a better angle to do the alg. Blocks on opposite sides of the cube, so do DD first. Then you can always get Adj. Later in this video, it is quite important to know PJ from different angles, so it is quite important to know that. So here are all of them. So first off, top misaligned, and in the front, this one is the standard one I use. For this one, the bottom is aligned, and in the front, it's also pretty similar. Goes like that. And for the back, top is aligned, goes like this. Like that. For the bottom is aligned, goes like this. So these are all different variations of the PJ alg. If you know JJ from different angles, you can kind of see the similarities there. But that is how they work for different alignments and different angles. And those are pretty important later. So on cubing scene, I made a video on how to do the corner M2. If you haven't watched that video yet, I would highly recommend that one, if it's already posted yet. But basically, instead of doing an M2 with the edges like this, you can do something like this. That does an M2 in the corners. And you can solve really bad PBLs like this as well. So if you ever get PNO, just do this simple alg, corner M2, do a move, and then do a corner M2 again, and the corner M2 again, like that. So pretty much do op O, but instead of doing edge M2s, do corner M2s. For example, here it's going counterclockwise, so I'll just start like this. M2, counterclockwise, so go counterclockwise like that. M2, U prime, and keep going. And then that solves that PBL. Also, that's also how PJ works, so slice, M2, slice gives you this kind of case. So this can also help you from doing this out from different angles. So if it's from this angle, it's the same idea, slice, M2, slice, and then same for the back, slice, M2 like that, and slice. Here's a nice application of this alg, which is EH. Quite a horrible PBL, but what you can do here is just PN first. Then you immediately get PNO, which is just super nice. So from here, just do the M2 spam with the corners. And then you solve that case pretty easily. Then there's this case where you have the blocks kind of like this. When you have this case, put the blocks in the back. You also want to start the same block alignment. So here the top is aligned, misaligned on the bottom. So same for the PJ, do it from that angle. And from there, just cancel to BB. So at the end, the alg should look like this. PJ, cancel into the BB. And then bar flip in that case. To solve this bad PBL, which is GA, you have a few options actually. The general idea is just to do op into PK, which is with cancellation 6 slices. So the end goal should be both blocks being on the left, as well as the A headlights being on the side. So what we could do here is maybe do something like this, hold it like this, do op from this angle, which gets this block to the left, and gives you PK, and can just cancel from here. But if you're in this angle, you can solve it like this. You can solve it with the bottom D2, or the bottom op, and you can get PK also. So whenever you get any sort of combo of G and A that look like that, just get both blocks to the left and do op, and then obviously cancel into the PK. So for OX or OQ, I hate the recognition for this case, it's quite bad. So here's a way you can avoid that. So for these cases, just do easy randomly from any angle. Then after that, you always get op or PN. So it doesn't matter if you're doing EZ or ZE or which angle you do it from. No matter what, if you do that out, you always get op or PN, which is super nice. So that's a clever way to solve that PBL a bit nicer without pausing too much. Here's also a nice way to solve MO from any angle pretty much. First off, just see where the O is going. So it's going to the right. Put this opposite block kind of thing on the opposite side. So O is going to the right, and then this opposite block is on the left. PJ from here. Then very easily you get AA, which is quite simple. So that's 9 slices instead of 10. There's also some nice cases where you can do PJ into K, which can work sometimes pretty well. So for this one, it's ZF, not the greatest case, but you can solve it like this. PJ. From that angle gives you KK, which is quite good. Then you got ZV, also quite bad, but you can force PJ on bottom to get a P, and of course get a K from here. So PJ, and then we got KP, which is not too bad. So for a lot of the op cases, for like E perms, V perms, and N perms, you get some pretty nasty combinations, but here's a better way to solve all of those. So what you can do is do SS and force it into an Adj. So I'll show how to do it for each case and then show an example at the end. So for E perms, just hold it in a way that the E perm goes like that. From here, just do SS, doesn't matter which one, and you get Adj. For V perms, what we want to do is hold the block on the left side of the cube and have that edge, this one edge overhanging on the right side of the slice, and have the rest on the left hand. So something like this maybe, SS, with force Adj there. And from do SS with the block alignments, and you'll get Adj. Also, you can use S perms to force Adj on Y perms, so something like this. So hold one of the blocks of the Y perm on the left side of the cube in a way that faces the front or the back, like this, and like not the side. And if you do SS like that, you get Adjs. So yeah, you can force Adj from Y perms using S perm. So if you get any combo of N, V, or E, just do SS to Adj. So for here, I've got the V perm, so just hold the block on the left and misalign one edge to the right side. And then for the bottom, just hold it in this fashion. Just do SS from this angle here. And I always get Adj. So that's a better way to solve any combos of N, E, or V. So for SS, knowing different angles for this alg is also quite important. So this is the standard one, but you want to know the inverse of that as well, which is this case, which goes like this. So just play around with the inverse for that one. And you can also do SS from the back like this with this alg. So there's a lot of ways you can do SS from this angle, or this angle. So knowing all of those angles is quite important. If you know how to use S perms on PLLs to force Adj, you can use it for stuff like PS to force Adj. For example, something like FY isn't the greatest PBL, but you can make this a tiny bit better by making Adj on bottom with a P, and then putting S on top to make an Adj. So you get Adj. So PS, and then you get Adj. Here's a nice 6 slice PBL that is quite important, which is just JF. Always hold the J block on the left. When it's misaligned though, put the F on the front. When it's aligned though, like this, put the F in the back. So for these cases, you want to do PK, cancel into P and PN. So it goes like this, PK, cancel into P and PN. So how we visualize it is you put the P on top and K on the bottom. Do the PK with both layers moving at the same time first, like that. Move the bottom layer like that. From here, just cancel into P and PN, which is just move both layers like that and then solve it. The alg will be in the description if you think that would work a bit better, but that's how you visualize the alg. Same for here, but since the bottom this time is the J perm, do the PK with the top being the K and bottom being the P. So do PK and then cancel into PN like that. If the J perm is aligned, do the same exact thing, but for the first move the PK, move it to the right, so the opposite direction. So something like this. And then the rest of the alg goes the same exact way. So again, if it's aligned, this one is with the J perm on the bottom, just move it to the right side now. And then cancel into PN. So the idea is pretty simple. Put the J perm with the block on the left, and then align the blocks there. And then put the F perm either on the front if it's misaligned, or in the back if it's aligned. From there, if the block is misaligned for the J perm, start off the PK with the layers going to the left. If the block is aligned for the J perm, start off PK with the layers going to the right. So that's kind of how it works. Next, for K Adj, it's also pretty similar. So first of how you hold it is have the edge on the right side of the cube with both edges on the right, and then have the K with the both blocks on the left, but have one edge sticking out like that. So it works the same for this case as well. This one has the K aligned, so have to go like that. And then this case, again, have the blocks for the K on the left, have one stick out, and then have the edge perfectly on the right side of the slice. For here, just VF into PN. So same idea as before, except do VF instead of PK. So obviously you want to do the F on the corners that are swapped, and then the V on the, of course, solve corners layer or the Adj layer. So here do VF, and then PN, so cancel at the end. So do that, and just cancel at the end, like that. So same concept here, just do F here and then V on bottom. So V on bottom first, and then cancel to PN, like this. Here the blocks are aligned this time, so same idea here, but do the VF in the opposite direction. So for here, this VF, and then cancel to PN. And for this one, same idea with FV, you would do VF in this direction, and then cancel to PN from there. So nice application of FJ is with this alg, which is BM, which is quite a bad PBL. It's 10 slices usually, but you can solve it in 9 with this solution. Do Opp like this to force J and F, and just solve JF. So yeah, that's a better way to solve BM. Also, another way to use FJ is to use PJPJ into FJs. So stuff like this. For X perm, you can always do PJPJ into an F perm. That also works for opposite swaps as well. So I'll show an example later for that. So if you remember how to force J perms with PJPJ, this would be quite handy for this tip. So here you can force JF by making the F on bottom and then the J on top with PJPJ. Then you can get JF, which is good. If you remember, doing that alg on S also gives you a J perm, which is nice. And also doing PJPJ on Opp gives you F perms as well. So if you want to do this alg in 10 slices, it can also work as well. PJPJ into JF. Here's a nice 6 slicer for JV or VJ. If the blocks of the J are aligned, hold the V in the front like this. If they're misaligned like this, hold it in the back. This one is just PS cancelled into Opp. So this PS cancelled this Opp. So no matter what, the first move is the top and bottom layers moving together. And then if the blocks are aligned, move it left first. Do that PS. And just cancel into Opp. If the blocks are misaligned, however, do the first 2 moves going to the right. Like that. And then keep going. Cancel into Opp. And the same works with the bottom layer as well. For like JV. Same goes with YJ or JY. In this case, you're doing the other PS where you do the first single layer move, then the both layer move. For the angle of its misaligned blocks, you actually align it and then you put the block here like that. And you put the block the opposite way on top here if the blocks are aligned, and you misaligned it like that. So this one, start with PS. If it's like this, if the blocks are misaligned, go clockwise first, like that. Finish off the PS, cancel into Opp, like that. This one, go counterclockwise, so something like that. Cancel into the PS, continue, and then do the Opp cancellation. Same for the bottom layer as well, for like stuff like JY. Similar ideas go out with stuff like SPJ, but instead of doing a PS into Opp cancellation, you do something like FV into Opp. So if the blocks are aligned, put it in front. If they're misaligned, put it in the back. And always misalign it to the point where the blocks are broken up, something like that. And something like this. If the blocks are in front, do the U move first. Here just do VF until the last move, then cancel to Opp. This one, do VF counterclockwise moves first, so it's like that. Cancel to Opp. And the same goes for if S is on bottom and PJ is on top. Here's a nice way to solve bad GG. Usually this is solved in I think 10 slices, so the optimal is 6, which is so much better. So the way I like to do it is first have both headlights in the back, then do the one move that makes it possible to break up both blocks like this. So both headlights in the back, and then do that move that makes it possible to break up both blocks. And you want to make sure it's on the same side of the cube, so both on the left here. So not one on the left, one on the right, but you want them like both on the left side. So something like that. So if both blocks are on the left side of the puzzle, I first do 2 moves to bring them to the left even more. Like that. Like 2 -3s here. Like to bring that here and bring that here. To bring them even more on the left. Kind of like that. Then you move both layers a little bit to the left. Move both layers fully to the right with 3 moves. And a bit to the left. And then finish it off with clockwise moves. Kind of long sequence, but you can think of the out kind of like that. Same idea here. Both blocks are on the left, so bring them more on the left like this. Do a move towards the left. Do full moves on the right. Little moves to the left. Then for the ending, just finish it off with the last 2 moves. These algs are a bit more different, but they work the same way. So obviously first headlights in the back, then move it in a way where the blocks are on the same side of the cube, so here on the right side. So from here, do 2 moves to get the blocks to the right side, like that. Then do a small move towards that side, so to the right, like that. A full move to the left. Here's a bit different. Do another small move to the left, then finish it off. So the ending is a tiny bit different. Again, here's another case with the blocks on the right. Hold it so the slice breaks them both up and are both on the right side. So first move, get them both to the right. Then move both layers towards it. Then do 2 full moves to the other side. 2 small moves to the other side. Then finish it off. That's how you solve bad GG pretty easily. So here's how I can solve the PBL PX in just 6 slices. Usually this takes 9 slices with FV into Adj, so this is quite a nice alg. So first off, how to hold it. Hold the headlight part of the P to the right, and make sure you're preserving this block and preserving this block. So the opposite block you want to preserve, as well as this block. For here, the first move is just to do a 4 to get this to the right side of the puzzle. So get this towards here, so to the right, 4, and do a -1 on the bottom. From here, move both layers with small turns to the left 3 times. 1, 2, 3. From here, just finish it off with the last slice. So for this case, same idea. Highlight this on the right, slice, do the 4 to bring that to the right, like that, and do 1 on the bottom. This time the block went to the right, so after the slice, do small left moves like that. 3 of them. Then finish it off like that. Same for the bottom kind of stuff. For this one, preserve this block. First off, move this block to the right with a 4. It went to the right, so go left now with the 3 small moves. Then finish it off. Last one, preserve this block this time. The block's here, so do a move that goes like that to get that to the right. Then move 3 times in the opposite direction. Then finish it off. Sometimes it's nice to do JR from the back. So for this one, the starting move is pretty much the same. Just go the opposite way. Then for the other 2 moves, in the middle, go to the right. Then go to the left. Then finish it off. That's how you do JR in the back. So again here, I would do clockwise moves because the J is on the bottom. But since I want to do the opposite of that, I do counterclockwise moves first. Always go right first. Then go left. Then finish it off. That's how you do JR in the back. Here's a nice application of this, which is just bad GR. This is another one of the bad U Perm ones. So this can be solved in 8 slices using this quite simple technique. So we want to do the J Perm on the side that has the G Perm. So here we do clockwise moves first. Go right, then go left. Finish off the JR, and you just get NN, which is super simple. So that's an 8 slice solution for that case. For the same kind of case, if the bar is flipped, you do something like this. PJ through the back. Then you get SS. So you can execute this SS from whatever angle makes the most sense. So here probably do SS from the back, which was shown before. Like that, and then no bar flip. Here are the optimal ways to solve SX. So for this one, if the blocks are misaligned, put it towards the back. If the blocks are aligned, put them in the front like this. So the alg is quite simple for this one. It's just JR cancel into PK. So first off, for the first move of JR, I like to think about it as putting the block on the left. So here it's on the back. To put it to the left, do a U prime. So start it like that. If the blocks are misaligned, I like to continue the JR as normal. If the blocks are aligned though, do the JR from the back that I showed before. So yeah, here we go. First, SX, misaligned, put it to the back. Bring this block to the left on the first move, so counterclockwise moves here. This is a misaligned S, so just do a regular JR, like that. And then from here, just cancel into this PK alg, which goes like this. So again, if it's in the front, first move goes as usual, put this block towards the left, like that. It's an aligned block, so do the JR from the back. So go to the right first, then to the left, finish it off, and then from here just do this PK cancellation. Next, this one, same idea here. Counterclockwise move to bring it to the left. Go right, left for the JR. And here just cancel into this PK. Then when it's misaligned, put it towards the back again. To bring it to the left, do a clockwise move here. Do a normal JR because that's what it is. And from here just cancel into this PK. Here is KX, quite similar to SX, but it is different in the way that it's canceling into PS, not into PK. If the blocks are misaligned, put the headlights at the back this time. And if the blocks are aligned, put the headlights in the front this time. Something like this. From here it's quite similar. Do JR. The blocks are aligned, so do it normally. So bring the block to the left first. Then go left, right, because it's the normal JR. Cancel into this PS. Here's the one that's misaligned. So first move is the same, bring the block to the left. This one is the other JR, the back JR, so move it to the right, then left first. Then finish it off, but before you do that, cancel into the SP. Same for the bottom. Again, put the headlights in the front if it's aligned, and if it's not aligned like this, put the headlights in the back, like that. Bring up blocks to the left, so this clockwise R perm and J perm, so that, left, right, finish it off. Before I finish it off, cancel into this PS. Like that. Finally, this XK. So first off, counterclockwise moves because that gets the blocks to the left. Go to the right, then to the left because it's the back JR. Before finishing off, just cancel into this PS. Here's a nice way to solve the PBL DX. So the way you hold this is X doesn't matter, and then for the D, hold the headlights to the right and align the blocks. So something like this, or something like this. Same for the bottom layer, just have the headlights to the right and align the blocks. Just like that. If the blocks are in the front, do PJ from the back, like that. Then you'll notice you get FJ. So what you do here, just cancel into the alg. So PJ, and then cancel into the FJ. Just like that. So if the blocks are in the back, do PJ from the front. So like this. And then you cancel into this JF alg. Same for the bottom, if the blocks are in the back, PJ from here. Cancel into FJ. And same for the last case, blocks are in the front this time, so PJ from the back. And then FJ. Next for the inverse, which is going to be BX. For this one, if you have the blocks aligned, hold the headlights in the back. If they're misaligned, hold the headlights in the front. And the same for the bottom. Misaligned, hold them in the front. If they're aligned, hold the headlights in the back, like that. So because this is the inverse, you're going to do this by doing FJ into PJ. And it is quite easy to visualize. Just imagine J on top and F on bottom, and then do the alg. And you want to do the alg that has the blocks aligned for the J perm. So something like this. Same for this one, but imagine the J perm on top being misaligned. So JF. Don't do the last slice and cancel into the PJ, like that. Same idea for the bottom. It's misaligned, so imagine the J being misaligned, and then do JF like that. Cancel into PJ. Same for the one, but the inverse. So FJ first. This time cancel into the PJ from the back, like that. The next alg I'll be showing is GE. There's actually a ton of them because of mirrors and all, so I won't be covering the mirrors, but if you understand these cases, it should be pretty simple to do the mirrors as well. So for this case, it's just Adj, cancel into PS, so it's quite simple. So the headlights are next to an opposite color, that means you want to put the E perm block swapping like this. If not, you want them swapping the other way, like that. And for these cases, you always want to misalign it in a way that makes sure that this block is always not preserved. So something like this, not this. So first off, there's an Adj. I don't like thinking about it like an Adj, but more like an M2, and I'll show you why. So first off, just think of where the block is. So here's towards the back here. So first do a slice and move the headlights towards that block. So towards the back, do a U move. Here just do an M2, and that's it. And from here just cancel to PS. As you can see, it's quite simple. And here's the other one. This one, make sure to of course misalign the top correctly. So this block is towards the front, so slice, bring the headlights towards the front, do an M2, and then from here just cancel to this PS alg. Now for the G perms, of course hold the E perm like this, as I said before, and of course misalign the blocks, but here you want to do PS first, then Adj. So first off, know where the block is, it's towards the front, so do the PS with the first move being a single move, like that. Then don't do the last move of the PS. Instead move the opposites away from the block, so it was in the front, so move towards the back. Then do the M2 from here. Then solve it. So that's the Adj, but I like to think about it more like an M2 because it's a bit easier. Same with this one, same exact angle, and then do PS from here. And then for here, the block was in the back, so move the headlights towards the front here to do the M2, and then finish it off. So that's how you solve GE. Alright, so here's another PBL, which is GZ. This one's also quite similar to the previous one in that it's 7 slices. Again, I won't be showing the mirrors, but I'll be showing how to solve these ones, and the mirrors should be pretty obvious from there. So starting out with the ones with headlights being opposite, kind of like this one, or this one. Just like before, have the headlights on the left, and misalign it so you break up this block like this or this, and then have the bottom also aligned in a way that breaks up the blocks like this or like this. From here, you could do PJPJ from the front like that to get PK, and you can just cancel it, so it looks like something like this. Yeah. This one, it's the same thing, but you want to do one in the back because the block's here. Like that, and then just PK, which is just pretty simple. Now if you have the G like this, similar idea, but you want to do PK first, then you want to do the PJPJ. First one, I hold the headlights on the right, something like this, and misalign the blocks as usual. And from here, just do PK. For the Z perm though, make sure that the slice does not break up the Z perm, so something like this, or something like that. From here, just do PK, and then just cancel through the PJPJ like that. Same idea here, just do PK here, starting with the single moves, and then just cancel to PJPJ like that. Alright, so usually RE is quite a bad PBL. Usually you do it with VF into Double U Perm, which is not really optimal, but it is optimal if you cancel it. But the good Double U Perm is quite weird because it's from a different angle, so I'll be showing you how I do it pretty much. So same idea though, hold the headlights on the left always, and always preserve the block. So something like this. And for the bottom, same idea, headlights on left, preserve block, like that. The next thing you want to do is put the corner top of the E perm like that, like this, kind of like the X block in front. Then you want to know where the block is, so the block is on the back right. So from here, just do VF. You notice that if you do it like that, you get a weird angle for this alg. So the way you do it is you do VF. And on the last move of the VF, just go one further and cancel to the up kind of thing. Then know where the block is. So the block is on the bottom, on the back here, usually for the R perm. So move that block to the right by doing a D prime in this case. Do an M2, and then finish it off like that. That's how I kind of memorize this alg. For this one, same idea, but it's a bit different because the block is aligned here, so we have to do VF with like this V and then this F. So hold it with the corner swapping here and here, and then do VF here with this V and this F. Don't do this last move, instead just do the cancellation to up, like that. The block for the R perm was originally here, so do a deep to get it to the right side, M2, and then just finish it off from here. Same for the bottom, hold this correctly, and then from here just do, this time FV. Cancel to the op. The block was here before, so do a U to get it to the right, M2, and finish it off. And then finally this one's FV again, like that. Cancel to the op. The block was here, so do a U prime to get it to the right, and finish it off. I accidentally held the E wrong actually for this one, so I got an H perm, so just don't do that. But yeah, that's the alg. VV is a pretty simple 6 slicer. For this one, just do NN. Then you realize you get good Double U Perm. So what we do here, just hold it like this, V here. Then you would cancel the 2, so do NN first, and just cancel to the good Double U Perm, and that solves it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this PBL video. It's quite long, I know, but I think there's a lot of good tips in this video. And I think if anything, this long video kind of shows how really detailed PBL is and how much more there is to learn about it, even though you know so much about it. I'm 100% sure that I didn't cover every single thing about PBL in this video, and there is a lot more I even know that I didn't really share here. However, I think I shared a lot of my knowledge, and hopefully this was helpful. A lot of this stuff I figured out on my own, so I also recommend you guys, if you see a case that you think is quite ugly, maybe search up an alg for it or try and learn it intuitively and play around with different cases and see what happens. But either way, hopefully this video was helpful and showed you guys some more techniques for PBL. Thanks for watching, and see you guys in the next video.